Oh, he looks as dumb as you. I guess kids of someone who drop out of middle school are also stupid. A classmate named Catherine, who for some reason always looked down on me, looked into Ryan's face. She was a Harvard graduate. She was good-looking but had a terrible personality. That's what Catherine said after looking at Ryan's face. I could tolerate being mocked myself, but it pained me when she insulted my son, Ryan. Despite my patience, I raised my voice. His education level doesn't matter. Just because you went to Harvard doesn't give you the right to speak to my son like that. Seeing this, Ryan said in a cold voice, "Dad, this woman, it's Mrs. Smith, right? Should we fire her?" Ryan might look like he's 10, but he's no ordinary 10-year-old. Catherine would later come to realize this. My name is John. Probably a very average 8th grader at that time. Part of the soccer team, sometimes on the bench, sometimes not. Unlike the noticeable guys, I don't have a girlfriend. Yes, just an utterly average 8th grader. I had one strength and one weakness. First, my strength was math. I wasn't good at all subjects, but for some reason, math just clicked for me. I solved problems without much struggle, even if it was an advanced problem I saw for the first time. I was the only one in my grade who could solve some tough problems, and I've been holding the top rank in math since admission. I especially loved binary numbers. It felt romantic to count in a system other than base 10. It felt like a game and was very fun. On the other hand, my weakness, or rather the person I couldn't stand, was a beautiful classmate named Catherine Smith from elementary school. For some reason, Catherine treated everyone else normally, but she was cold to me. We used to play together in early elementary school and even visited each other's houses, but around our school trip in elementary school, she suddenly became distant and would only speak ill of me. "John, don't slack off during cleaning. Come on, take out the trash." It wasn't just me who was slacking off, but Catherine would say this and toss the trash can at me. "John, don't just stand there. Put out the flame. You're so useless." Anyone could turn off the burner during our science experiments, but Catherine would always complain to me. Moreover, she'd say things like, "I can't touch that alcohol lamp now that John has touched it," as if I was something dirty. I wanted to retort, but Catherine was bold, beautiful, and one of the top-ranking girls in our class hierarchy. I could never talk back and just took her remarks. I always thought that one day I'd prove her wrong, but the only thing I had over Catherine was math. However, she was decent at math and was top of the class in overall grades. Throughout middle school, Catherine kept targeting me. And as fate would have it, we ended up going to the same high school. So my high school life started with the same strength and weakness. Then, during my sophomore year of high school, my life took a 180-degree turn. My father, who was the backbone of our family, passed away. He loved fishing in rivers. One morning while going fishing, he drove the wrong way on a mountain road and plunged off a cliff, taking his car with him. And he never came back. Our family, which had been living a modest yet peaceful life, was shattered. I can never forget my mother's face when she received the call from the local police. I'll never forget the pale face of my father when we rushed to the hospital. After my father passed away, my mother, who had always been a stay-at-home mom, decided to work as a temp, but she couldn't keep a job for long because the sudden loss of my father often made her ill. Just when I thought she'd been working for a while, she'd end up bedridden. She'd get better and start working again, but within about 3 months, she'd fall again. I thought I couldn't put her through that anymore. I decided to give up on college. I'd even drop out of high school and start working right away. I wanted to bring my mom back to being a stay-at-home mom. I made up my mind the 3rd time she fell. Catherine, who always criticized me, confronted me when I decided to quit high school. "What are you thinking? Are you out of your mind? Without a high school diploma, You won't stand a chance in society. You have just one more year of high school. Don't quit now. Only a fool would drop out. Catherine strongly disapproved of my decision, but there was no changing my mind. I handed in my resignation that week and left high school by the weekend. After quitting, I first took a part-time job at a local convenience store. I'd never worked before since my high school didn't allow part-time jobs, so every day was a new experience for me. It was tiring, but I had committed to supporting our livelihood, and there was no turning back. As I got used to the convenience store job, I began to work part-time at a British pub in the evenings. My mother, seeing the occasional burns I came home with, would cry, worried about my erratic lifestyle. Still, not everything about the job was tough. As I continued with my part-time jobs, a new chapter began in my life. There was a woman named Kate who worked as a server at the pub. Kate attended a renowned state university nearby, studying robotics. Kate and I started chatting a little more during the hours when there were fewer customers. Turns out, robotics involves a lot of math, and I found the college lectures Kate shared with me really interesting. Gradually, I became interested in robotics. Whenever I wasn't scheduled at the convenience store during weekdays, I'd go to the university with Kate and secretly attend lectures. The classes were challenging with many unfamiliar theories, but I'd borrow Kate's student ID to study in the library afterward. Sometimes I'd wonder if I'd be attending that university if it weren't for my father's accident. But I found fulfillment in my busy work days, and there was a sense of accomplishment in supporting my mom. And above all, experiencing my first love was wonderful. Kate, being 3 years older, seemed very mature. Every conversation with her was stimulating. Yet, when we'd strolled by the riverbank, her expressions were childlike and adorable. I wanted to protect Kate's smile forever. As expected, Kate went on to graduate school. Being one of the top students, it seemed many research labs wanted her. She chose a research lab led by a professor known for tackling challenging subjects. Since Kate's research often extended into the late hours, she quit her part-time job at the British pub, so we no longer ran into each other at work. But every evening, once I was done with my own job, I'd visit Kate's apartment, cherishing the few moments we could spend together. Kate's apartment looked like that of a stereotypical science student. Aside from essential furniture and household items, there were piles of specialized books everywhere. By this time, I couldn't comprehend the complexity of the books Kate was reading, but she'd occasionally simplify her research for me. "You know, John, after working a few years, you can always choose to go to college," she said. I thought I had given up on the idea of going to college, but it was Kate who showed me such an option. Turns out, not everyone entering college is a fresh high school graduate around 18 or 19. Many adults do it, too. Those who've worked after high school and then felt the urge to study more also enroll. But Kate, I didn't even graduate from high school. When I mentioned that, Kate told me about the GED system. Apparently, even for someone like me who hasn't graduated from high school, if you pass the GED test, you are considered to have a high school level education and can then apply for college. Right now, I don't have the money for college tuition, and I'm maxed out just supporting my mom and me, but a new dream was born in me, to save up money and go to college someday. My dates with Kate were mostly in her apartment or on the university campus, but they were always a lot of fun. The university's cafeteria was affordable and tasty. Plus, considering the appetites of college students, they had plenty of large portion options, which was great. Kate loved the parfaits from the cafeteria. Every time I bought her one and brought it to our table, she'd be so delighted. I'd often think that if I could earn more, I could treat her parfaits at fancy cafes instead of the cafeteria. But the joy she found in those school cafeteria parfaits made me cherish her even more. Kate would always tell me, if you want to earn more, you can't just work more hours. There's a limit to how many hours a person can work. Instead, improve your skills. If you can earn more per hour, You make more even if you work the same hours. You should focus on learning. I had a tendency to pick up more shifts whenever I saw something Kate might want, but her words made me hold back and consistently work on improving my current skills. I learned to use software I couldn't before, and even got a culinary license. Though it cost money to study, and sometimes felt like a financial setback, once I got that culinary license, the manager at the pub I worked at praised me and raised my hourly wage. As a result, I was able to buy Kate the necklace she had been eyeing for Christmas. And with my improved computer skills, I got a job as a computer class instructor through a friend's recommendation. Leaving my convenience store job that I had since dropping out of high school, teaching computer skills to folks in the community meant a significant bump in my monthly earnings. Around this time, my mom, feeling healthier, started working part-time, reducing the financial burden on our household. Little by little, I started saving money. With savings in hand, I began to think about marrying Kate. And when Kate graduated from grad school in the spring, we joyfully tied the knot. Our life together, as she started her job as a researcher after her postgraduate studies, was incredibly happy. We rented a small place, but whichever of us got home first would make dinner, and we'd eat together every evening. Even the moments just lying together, I felt so happy being aware of Kate's presence beside me. I continued to juggle my jobs as a computer instructor and a part-timer in pub's kitchen. One day, the manager approached me, saying he wanted me to run the kitchen for a newly opening pub. It seemed I was the only part-timer with a culinary license. So, my hourly wage increased a bit. "John, let's save the extra money for when you go to college someday," Kate suggested. Even though I wanted to treat her to all her favorite foods, she said that, "I'm quite content with my current life. You should definitely go to college. You love math so much." Saying that, Kate wouldn't let me use the money for our date night. I even proposed sending more money to my mom, but after hearing from Kate about college, she refused. And that's how I began saving for college. Then one day, Kate, blushing, told me something. "I'm pregnant." We were truly at the peak of our happiness. Our son, Ryan, turned out to be an astonishing prodigy, much to our surprise. Kate and I were both good at math, so we expected him to like it to some extent, but he exceeded our expectations. In no time, he could count from 1 to 100 and started solving quadratic equations even before kindergarten. He quickly became fond of binary, my favorite, and could convert decimals to binary instantly. Kate continued her work part-time, and after finishing her research at the lab and picking up Ryan from daycare, she'd chat with him about math in ways he could understand. Ryan always listened with shining eyes. By then, I had quit the pub job and had become a full-time instructor at the computer class. Ryan quickly learned to operate the computer I taught him, and he easily outgrew the programming materials for elementary school students. I wonder what kind of person he'll grow up to be. One night, while stroking the sleeping Ryan's hair, Kate said this and suddenly began to cry. "Kate, what's wrong? It was such a cheerful topic, so what happened?" Looking at her face with suspicion, Kate clung to me and began to cry. Then she revealed, I've been diagnosed with a brain tumor." I was stunned. Only 6 months left. I couldn't come to grips with Kate's confession and remained silent for a long time. I need to support Kate. I knew it, but I couldn't help picturing my father's pale face. Now, even Kate. It reminded me of the atmosphere when my mother answered the phone that day. It's terrifying. "Please tell me it's a lie. Tell me you're just groggy." I couldn't accept Kate's illness, and for a while, life continued as usual. Kate went for treatments, but she never talked about her illness since then. I thought maybe we could just pretend it never happened. But one day, a call came from the lab. Kate collapsed. Lying in the hospital bed, Kate had regained consciousness but was hooked up to several lines, breathing through an oxygen mask. I wanted to look away, but the situation had escalated to a point where I couldn't. "Please, look after Ryan." By the time I finally accepted the reality of her words, Kate's condition had deteriorated to a level beyond treatment. For the month before Kate passed away, we repeatedly talked about Ryan's future. Kate apologized to me and Ryan, again and again. She had nothing to apologize for. The hardest part was for Kate, having to leave Ryan behind. "Ryan has an incredible talent," Kate kept saying. I felt the same way. "I'll do everything I can to help Ryan harness his exceptional gifts." Kate often took Ryan to the lab, where everyone adored him. She asked me to keep taking him to the lab even after she's gone. With the help of everyone in the lab, I promised to provide the best education possible. At dawn, on the day when 6-year-old Ryan held back tears and said, "Mom, Dad and I will do our best, don't worry," Kate was called to heaven at the young age of 33. Having lost a loved one twice, I couldn't afford to break down. I had to protect my son, Ryan. From that day, we started a new life, focusing on nurturing Ryan's talents. Time passed, and as Ryan's 10th birthday approached, we went to celebrate at a famous upscale restaurant known for its traditional dishes. After enjoying our meal, we were satisfied and just stepping out of the entrance when I noticed a familiar face. Catherine. It was Catherine, an old acquaintance from elementary to high school. She was there dining with her boyfriend. Upon seeing us, the corner of her mouth twisted into a smirk. "You, dining in such a fancy restaurant, even though you dropped out of middle school. Out of your league, don't you think? Middle school dropout or not, what's that got to do with anything?" I didn't want to provoke Catherine, especially with Ryan around. I tried to leave quickly, but she kept on throwing jabs. "You probably can't even educate your child properly with your dropout status, can you?" I had promised Kate to prioritize Ryan's education, so this really got under my skin. Still, I tried to ignore her and started to leave with Ryan. "Look at him. He's got that clueless look, just like a dropout's child. I guess stupidity runs in the dropout family." Catherine pushed further. Although I could handle insults thrown at me, when she insulted Ryan, I lost it and snapped back. "My educational background has nothing to do with this. Just because you went to Harvard doesn't give you the right to talk that way about my son." "Oh, come on. Is it because you didn't even finish high school?" Catherine continued to mock. Ryan suddenly said in a cold voice, "Dad, this woman, it's Miss Smith, right? Should we fire her?" "What are you talking about, Ryan?" Attempting to reprimand him, Ryan continued, "She's a business associate of my company. She might not know me, but I've seen her. She's from the security firm we've outsourced to, so at the very least, I can have her removed from the current project. Right, Miss Smith?" "Ryan, there's no need to retaliate, no matter how much one is mocked." That being said, I might have snapped back a bit earlier. I tried to silence Ryan's harsh words. "What? How can a kid like this be associated with my company? There's no way you can fire me. Talk in your dreams." Clearly shaken by being addressed by Ryan, Catherine snapped back and disappeared into the restaurant with her partner. "Ryan, you shouldn't talk about firing someone like that," I advised him, but Ryan still looked discontent. Ryan can be a bit sharp-tongued at times. Well, being acknowledged as a member in Kate's lab, researching robotics as an elementary schooler, and even doing system development, I can see why he might have become a bit assertive and outspoken. But kindness and relationships are the foundation for all. Just because he's a child doesn't excuse everything he says, especially since he's working with adults on system development. He needs to be careful with his words. Ryan developed a digital photo album app. It became a massive hit. With the profits, we set up a company to develop the next app. On paper, I was listed as the CEO, but in reality, Ryan was the one pulling most of the strings. The security aspect of that album app was outsourced, and Catherine worked for the outsourced company. When I reprimanded him for speaking rudely to an outsourcer, Ryan pouted for a while, but when I said, "Mom will cry," he calmed down and muttered, "Sorry." It was a few days after the incident at the upscale restaurant. A data breach occurred at Catherine's company. Fortunately, the information leaked wasn't directly related to Ryan's app, but we found ourselves dragged into the whole mess. "You did it, didn't you?" Holding a grudge about that incident before, Catherine accused Ryan of being the culprit. Ryan was, of course, outraged. Feeling indignant, he was determined to find the real perpetrator. Fortunately, the method of the leak wasn't too complicated. It seemed like he'd just have to decrypt some codes and trace back a few IP addresses. With the help of everyone in the lab, when they decrypted the code and tracked the address, it surprisingly led to the computer of Tom, the boyfriend who had accompanied her to that upscale restaurant that time. When Catherine confronted him, Tom readily admitted that he had someone else do it for him. I was just jealous of how capable Catherine seemed, able to do anything. Catherine had a flashback at those words. A time in the past when she felt inferior to her first love in math and acted mean out of frustration. She had intended to confess her real feelings and apologize for her past behavior when they graduated high school, but he dropped out, and she never got the chance. Even though she was the one at fault, she harbored resentment and said hurtful things when they met again. Catherine came to my house to apologize and shared this story. I was utterly shocked to see the proud Catherine, almost as if bowing her head to the ground in remorse. Her confession that she once had feelings for me was even more startling. It made me realize anew how emotions can become so tangled that they're hard to control. Ryan didn't say much, but he seemed to sense something in Catherine's sincere apology and her vow to help Tom get back on the right track. Kate. Ryan just turned 10. Today, we're visiting Kate's gravesite. Ryan's photo app is still selling really well. The new features are loved by the customers, and the add-ons are selling. He reported in front of Kate's grave. But I did something wrong. Ryan admitted on his own. Some people I work with spoke ill of me, and I retaliated spitefully. Even though I was the stronger one, I ended up bullying the weaker person. Had he truly realized his mistake? As a parent, I felt relieved to see Ryan reflecting on his actions. From now on, I'll be kinder to others. Even if someone speaks ill of me, I won't retaliate. So, Mom, you can be at peace. Kate, Ryan has grown so much, both in heart and body. He's truly maturing. And I have something else I want to share. Kate, I've decided to go to college next year. I plan to study engineering and work seriously on system development, alongside Ryan and the others. It'd be really reassuring if you join the development team, Ryan exclaimed with enthusiasm. I used to only be involved in company management, but honestly, I've always wanted to be part of the development, not just for bug checks, but to be deeply involved. I thought going to college would be the best way to achieve that. When I grow up, I'll go to college too. I want to attend the same one Mom did. You already visit college research labs, don't you, Ryan? But you should definitely go to college, maybe even grad school. Yeah, and in the future, I want to be a researcher like Mom. I'll leave the company to you, Dad, Ryan said with a mischievous grin. Kate. He's growing up so strong and capable. It seems like it'll be a long time before I come to see you, but by then, I'll have plenty of stories to share. So, please wait for me there. I whispered to Kate in my heart. John, Ryan, I will always be watching over you. It felt like I heard Kate's voice carried by the wind. All right, Ryan, let's grab some ice cream from the campus cafeteria on our way home. Yay! Ryan cheered. We started walking hand in hand on our way home, the scent of spring beginning to mingle with the air.